Oh no, it looks like an ex-Bethesda developer is very worried about Elder Scrolls 6. Let's break this down. Before we do that though, where's my Morrowind remaster, Bethesda? If you're obsessed with making remasters instead of actually making new games, just give me Morrowind. I will give you all the money for it. Like that game, here's a cool story actually. That game, I saved my pocket money from my paper round. So I guess it wasn't pocket money because I was earning it from a paper round to buy a GeForce 3. It took me like a year to save up for this because the GeForce 3 had a pixel shader, so you could have pixel shaded water. I mean, I must have only been like 14 or 15 at the time. It was like one of those formative gaming moments. So just give me Morrowind. I mean, I will take that all day. Because, of course, we know, actually, while we're talking of this, look at this, right? This is from VG Charts. We know that Oblivion did really well as a remaster. It sold over 9 million copies. It's probably gone up now because this tweet is, I guess, from a while ago. It's from July last year. So, yeah, just give us Morrowind. Give it me now. Okay, let's get stuck into this because this is a fantastic interview by PC Gamer. It is so good. And it's going to explain a lot of the reasons why Elder Scrolls 6 is so delayed. Like, what is going on with the game? So, the title reads, Bethesda's former Elder Scrolls lore master on why he left Starfield's communication breakdowns and how he wanted the Elder Scrolls 6 to be an Empire Strikes Back kind of story, which I think the idea was the Thalmor basically win, and then there's going to be like a cliffhanger, and then I guess the next Elder Scrolls is it's like, you know, an Empire Strikes Back style Star Wars story. Although it's probably not the best idea to have a cliffhanger for Elder Scrolls when it literally takes like 2 decades to make the next game. Oh, it's so crazy to me, ain't it? Like, it's like, how have they not, like, Skyrim, all the memes of like, Skyrim's been re-released again. We're going to get another version of it. It's on a different platform. It's now on the Switch too. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, it's just unreal. Anyway. Oh dear, oh dear. Also the Dovahkiin, this trailer, I remember the trailer as well. It was so cool. Who was the animator? There was the animator at the time that did the animation on YouTube, and it was like a really cool animation because he's finally seen the Skyrim trailer. Anyway, let's get stuck into the article. So, or I guess the interview. Kurt Coleman, the longtime Elder Scrolls lore master, hasn't revealed why he left Bethesda in 2023 after more than 20 years until now. His departure didn't make headlines, but it rumbled those who know the series best. Michael Kirkbride, the one who worked alongside Coleman on Morrowind and Oblivion, wrote at the time that Kurt was the best writer the Elder Scrolls had ever had. His leaving will be to the creative detriment of the Elder Scrolls 6. That's like a damning incitement. It was almost certainly time for a change. Coleman, who now works at the Tencent-owned studio Lightspeed LA, tells me there were some things that had been going on for a long time that I'd not been super happy with. So this is the comment that Kirkbride made about Coleman over on Reddit 2 years ago now. And he says this, Kurt was the best writer the Elder Scrolls ever had. He was a torchbearer of keeping Tamriel's more unique qualities and ideas alive. No surprise as he came up with so many of them. His leaving will be to the creative detriment of 6. Such a massive mistake letting him go. I mean, that is what a damning comment there on Todd Howard and the leadership of Bethesda. So the article goes on. Some were an inevitable result of Bethesda's boom years with hundreds of developers across multiple studios making Starfield. Communication sometimes broke down and the developers felt disconnected from senior management. This seems like a story as old as time when it comes to game studios. You get these small teams that make a masterpiece. They try and scale up. They completely lose everything that made them special, and then it just becomes a mess. In some ways, you can say this is similar to the sort of indie game boom we've had over recent years, or even like the AA game boom. I think you can look at games like Clair Obscur, which I know they used external studios and had additional help and things like that, but it's still a relatively smallish studio. It's not thousands of employees like some of the big AAA developers have got and have they've failed in recent years. Anyway, but there's another reason, and it's linked to a promise Todd Howard made to him about the Elder Scrolls 6. A promise, he says, that was never fulfilled. Coleman's tenure at Bethesda was split in two. As a junior designer in 1996 and 1997, he worked on Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall. I'm not old enough to have played that when it came out, and I believe it might be one of those games that's quite, I don't want to say unplayable, but let's just say of its time. I'm sure you can still play it, but probably not the greatest gaming experience. The Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard and pre-production of Morrowind. Morrowind is where they really Morrowind is fantastic. It's so good. Like, the best thing about Morrowind is the fact it doesn't hold your hand in any way. Like, you just go out into Morrowind, you feel like you're in this vast world. from the moment you land. It's great. When the first time you see the Striders, you're like, wow, this is amazing. It's so good. Like, you just go out there and you just do your thing. You have to read, you have to work things out, you have to look for landmarks. It's so cool. Because I remember when Oblivion launched and it had the whole sort of waypoint system, it was seen as absolutely terrible. It's like, what is this? But of course, that's kind of become the norm. But yeah. Anyway, he returned in 2003 and was involved in every major Bethesda game after that point, including as co-lead designer on Skyrim and as lead systems designer on Starfield. So you can already see where this is going, right? We're seeing this sort of conflict with Starfield, with what Todd Howard, because Todd Howard always wanted to do a space game. He always wanted to make Starfield. I did not enjoy Starfield at all. It was just not great. It was a poor experience, I thought. Not a good game. I'm not the best person to ask about it. I played it for a few hours and I thought, I cannot play this anymore, and I just stopped playing it. And that was actually after they gave me a CD key, so it wasn't exactly like I paid for the game. But even then, I couldn't play the game. It was just not great. It was just so janky. It was terrible. Anyway, he became the Elder Scrolls lore master because of his longevity at the studio and his shaping of Tamriel's history. When ZeniMax Online Studios began making the Elder Scrolls Online, Coleman was assigned to field lore questions. Over this 2-decade second run, Bethesda ballooned and its culture changed. He says, particularly after 2011 Skyrim. So remember, this would have been Skyrim is the massive success, right? They were sort of a niche studio up until that point, and then Skyrim, boom. Or can I really be fair and say that? Because Fallout, I don't know. Fallout 3 was successful. Like, I don't think I can call them a niche studio. That'd be ridiculous. But Skyrim took them to the absolute, like, whoa, this is just insane, right? Anyway, in the early days, I've lost my mouse pointer. There it is. In the early days, it was a close group of developers, including Todd Howard, in a basement office making decisions and eating at the canteen together, he says. But the new offices opened and other studios were folded into by owner ZeniMax Media, including Battlecry Studios and Escalation Studios, both in 2018. ZeniMax itself was bought out by Microsoft in 2021. By the time Starfield shipped in 2023, it's 4 remote studios all working together on a game, Coleman says. And this kind of is what goes on with these big AAA game developers. They've got loads of different moving parts. They're often described as like a massive tanker. It's very hard to move them. So if you want to make a course correction, change systems in a game, very difficult to do that because everyone's already so far down a development pipeline. It's very hard to pull them back. It takes really good management to have the foresight to see what needs to be done, but also to identify when things are going wrong and you've got to make a change, which I think a lot of studios suffer with being able to do that. Anyway, when you get to that size, you can't have people just popping into Todd Howard's office to chat about a design point. He's not having lunch with everybody. It's very different when it's 400 people. 4 studios, big business, and Microsoft is now involved. Size brought problems. Decisions that on Oblivion would have been made on the spot after a face-to-face conversation were instead filtered through layers of management. Sometimes developers couldn't even work out who had made these decisions. This sounds like what happened on Overwatch as well, if you ask me. Like, just too much stuff going on, too many people getting involved. And I think, that's only one example. There's talking about Overwatch 2's development and the PvE and stuff like that and how it never worked. But I mean, there's so many examples of this, right? Of just massive communication breakdown. He also describes communication breakdowns during Starfield's development where teams didn't understand what they were supposed to be doing, or, there would be people taking the leads in one studio and getting an answer, talking to the leads, getting an answer, and then people talking to leads in another studio and getting a different answer, which would be the worst thing ever, right? Bethesda's growth and the problems that came with it were a slow-rolling change, he says, and predated Microsoft's acquisition. And these changes sound as if they're exemplified by how Howard's role shifted. Todd's a very good project lead, and fundamentally, I think he's a designer at heart, and he's good at it, obviously, if you look back at the games. Coleman says, but over time, as he got busier and every part of this larger and larger organization wanting to do stuff for their project, he would get pulled away. Howard made good decisions, Coleman says. So when he wasn't around, games suffered. Sometimes choices made in Howard's absence needed undoing later, which is interesting, right? So if they were really relying on him that much, when he couldn't actually give his time, people were trying to sort of plug that gap. And then whatever they were doing had to be sometimes undone. I mean, that is like that's not great. The way decisions were made wasn't the only problem for Coleman. As Bethesda grew, senior developers became more managerial and less hands-on. Skyrim leads, Coleman among them, were also making the game directly, for example, writing and building quests. But by Starfield, the leads, overseen by Howard, including the heads of entire studios, it felt more bureaucratic, he says. The expectation was your job can't be also making content if you're actually managing that scope of the project. He doesn't believe this setup is necessarily wrong and says it's perhaps inevitable as a game studio grows. He also enjoyed leading other people but preferred designing. I wanted to work that way because I like making games and being hands-on, he says. It had gotten to a scale beyond where I was really enjoying working in that environment, which this seems to be something that does happen quite a lot, where you've got, like I said, it just seems to be, you've got these small game teams, they make a game, then they grow. It's like, what's the next step? We're going to grow the team size. People who maybe were instrumental with the actual design earlier on start getting pushed into managerial roles, or they've got other additional work to do, and then it just all becomes a massive mess. It just seems like such a common thing, this does. And then we've got a screenshot of Starfield. And also, it's no surprise that Todd Howard was on Starfield and was leading it from the front, because that is literally his project. Like, that's his baby. But what of Todd Howard's promise? Corman says that after Skyrim, Howard verbally promised him the lead design role on Elder Scrolls 6, which is supposed to be the next project after Fallout 4. So that's actually like a bombshell, right? Fallout 4 goes, and then bang, we should have had Elder Scrolls 6, but we didn't. Of course, after Fallout, we didn't go to the Elder Scrolls 6. We made Fallout 76, which again, I'm not a fan of that, but I know some people are. And then even then, we didn't make the Elder Scrolls 6. We made Starfield, which became this extremely long project compared to other ones. So from my point of view, I've been waiting like 11 years to be the lead on the Elder Scrolls 6. So there's a little bit of, annoyance here from Corman, where he obviously was promised something, or feels he was promised something, maybe he was, and it actually never came to fruition. Now, in, I guess, defense of Todd Howard, decisions have got to be made all of the time, right? You need to look at what projects to work on and what you shouldn't be working on. Maybe you could say one thing one year, then you maybe have to change the next year. That's, like, I guess, realistic when running a business. It still, though, is, and I need to go full cam for this, because it still is a bit crazy, because if you think about the success of Skyrim, why wouldn't you be working on the Elder Scrolls as the main priority? Yeah, I know you wanted to make Starfield. I know you've got Fallout games, but they do not compare to Skyrim. It's like in a different world in terms of its reach and its size and everything else. But maybe that's what worked against it, because you could just keep re-releasing different editions of the game. Legendary Super Duper Edition. You can release it on different platforms. It's like an endless seller, and then you can keep working on all your other stuff. So maybe the fact it was so good and did so well and still does so well. I mean, it's still got like 30,000 concurrent players plus on Steam right now, I believe. It's insane. Like, in fact, let's check. Yeah, so Skyrim Special Edition, it's got 41,000 players. Even right now, it's like mad. When did it launch? 9.3 years ago. And remember, this is a special edition. This isn't the original version of the game. Like, what the hell? There's still a few thousand playing that other version. Anyway, let's carry on. I was obviously one of the old timers there and had a lot of experience. Bruce Nesmith and I had been the co-leads on Skyrim. I think most people would call it a successful project. I think they would. So I thought that it wasn't unreasonable for me to think that I could be a successful lead on the Elder Scrolls 6. It wasn't just my expectation. I had been told that it was going to happen. And they made the decision, no, you're not going to be the lead. So, all right, you've been told you're going to get the job. Now it's like, no, you're not. So let's see where this goes. And then, of course, we get this screenshot, which is all we've got of the new Elder Scrolls game. And this is years old at this point as well. Remember, the logo comes in. We're thinking it might be Hammerfall or something. We don't know. Anyway, he remembers that being a tough conversation, and Bethesda's leadership hoped he'd be happy with a different position. Todd said, well, we want you to have an important role in the project, but what I wanted and what he wanted were different things at that point. Bethesda declined to comment on the topic, and Corman says he doubts Howard would acknowledge the promise. And in any case, he could also say, well, that was a long time ago, things have changed, which is just fair, right? And he's definitely right that things changed. The role of lead on the Elder Scrolls 6 is very different from the role of lead on Skyrim. In retrospect, as much as he wanted it, he doesn't think he would have enjoyed it, and so they might have made the right decision in saying, I shouldn't be in this role. So that's interesting, right? Even he has sort of come to the conclusion that maybe it was the right thing to do. Anyway, we carry on. So it was a combination of this missing out in his overall dissatisfaction with the way the studio had changed that made him think the time was right to leave, he says. He talks about these events without malice or bitterness. It's obvious that Bethesda and Elder Scrolls still means a lot to him and that he enjoyed working with his colleague on those games. If Bethesda was still the smaller studio it was 15 years ago, he would love to be making the Elder Scrolls 6. And I think, this is like, again, like I said, this is a thing where you've got like these industry veterans who I feel like if, again, they were given like a crack small team of developers, they could make something really good. But when their teams balloon out, and they almost become like bureaucrats, I suppose, they end up like not being able to deliver projects and things all get messy. It's also mad, isn't it, that things have changed. When things worked, why change? It's like it's that endless thing, isn't it, of trying to get endless growth, more content, better games, more games. It's just more, shareholders, more. Anyway, he even knows what he would have done with the game's story, or at least what he would have liked to have done. I have in my mind that the Elder Scrolls 6 was going to be like The Empire Strikes Back, he says. The Thalmor, the elven supremacists, who were peripheral in Skyrim's story and ultimately wanted to control all of Tamriel, would be the bad guys who come out on top, setting up the Elder Scrolls 7. This, I mean, you could maybe say this is similar to, I believe, the way Nilfgaard operated in Witcher 3. Sort of like the evil empire takes over, and then you've kind of got to, fight back, I suppose. So, yeah, I mean, maybe this would have been interesting. I still think the funny thing is, because of how long this would have been almost like a Half-Life episode 3, well, Half-Life 3, I suppose, sort of cliffhanger where you've played episode 2 and you're like, well, okay, Half-Life 3 surely can't be that far away, and it never materializes. Or maybe it does this year, who knows? But it's a long, long time to go. Anyway, he saw evil triumphing as a welcome alternative to the Chosen One idea Bethesda often relied on. The player might have secretly saved the day at the end of the Elder Scrolls 6, he says, for example, by protecting an heir to the throne. So you've preserved hope for the future, but overall, it looks like the Thalmor are on the march. That would have been interesting, because I don't think any of the Bethesda games end, do they, with like the evil side or the bad side winning, do they? It's always the good guys win, or you, the good guy, wins. Anyway, he ultimately doesn't think Bethesda would allow an Elder Scrolls game with a bad ending with the pace of its releases. A cliffhanger. Yeah, so this is what I said. With a cliffhanger is completely unfeasible, he says. It's not a good way to end a game and say, yeah, we'll see you in 10 to 15 years. I agree. I absolutely agree. Fan theories point to Hammerfell. Not Fall. Did I say Hammerfall before? I might have done. I meant Fell. The possibility of Hierarch as locations for the next Elder Scrolls game. Coleman says he doesn't know where it will be, and jokes that his friends who remain at the studio can't talk about what's going on. The series lore master is now like all of us, watching and waiting from the outside. Okay, so main takeaway from that is, if we end up with the Hammerfell expansion, maybe we could, focused on the Red Guard potentially. We don't know what the story is going to be. Kurt doesn't actually explain or give us any sort of leaks or anything, which you wouldn't expect him to anyway. But I do think the main takeaway is the shift inside of Bethesda, which might become somewhat of an issue, because we can kind of see that playing out with recent stuff, especially with Starfield. Nobody really remembers Starfield, let's be honest, right? I don't think there's any super diehard Starfield players out there. I think I've seen some coverage of like a Star Wars mod, I think, for Starfield and things like that. So, okay, maybe it's got a modding scene, but the fact I'm trying to make here is the loss of quality. When you're going from the likes of, way back when in Morrowind, like 2003 or 2002, whenever that came out, and then you've got like, you're moving forward, you see Fallout 3, you're like, okay, this is a bit of a step up. It's taking Fallout into the, I guess, the modern era, and then you get Oblivion, or rather you get Oblivion, then you get Fallout, I should say. This is like a progression. They're making a hit, and then there's another hit, and then you end up with Skyrim, the supreme hit for the studio, and then you start going to Fallout 76, which, and then you end up with Starfield, and then you're like, things are starting to get worse. And I think the message here from Kurt is, if there has been a structural, fundamental change at Bethesda, then it's going to be really hard for them to deliver on Elder Scrolls 6 in the same way they delivered on Skyrim. Now, I hope that's not true. I hope Elder Scrolls 6 is a phenomenal game. I think, like most people out there, I'm absolutely dying to get my hands on that game whenever it launches. I just hope it launches before I die at the age of 80. You know what I mean, Bethesda? Let's get on with it. But then again, maybe it's better off if it don't launch, because if it's terrible, then it will not be great. Although I guess we can still carry on playing Skyrim. Anyway, just give me a Morrowind remaster. That's all I'm asking for, Todd. Please give me a Morrowind remaster. Anyway, thanks for watching today's video, guys. I've been Stylos, and if you enjoyed that, then, I don't know, let me know what you think the Elder Scrolls 6 could actually be. Where do you think the story could go? Are you looking forward to this? And after I've slated everyone who's played Starfield, are you actually playing Starfield and enjoying it, or did you enjoy it when it came out? I know I didn't. Anyway, you can follow me on everything, which is at Stylosa, and I'll catch you a lot on the next video. See you soon.